Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy podcast. On this week's episode, we'll be taking a look at the full Lille Regional Championships meta breakdown, as well as the results from some Asia Regional League tournaments that took place this past weekend. We're also going to be talking about the PTCG live beta, which is coming, confirmed by Pokemon, this month. The beta worldwide this month. So we'll be talking about that, our thoughts, our hopes, and prepare for potential disappointment. We will also, of course, have Guess That Flavor Text, everyone's favorite segment of the podcast. And then we'll spend the end of the podcast talking about the upcoming Lugia VSTAR. Is it unstoppable, as everyone seems to think at this point? My name is Trainer Chip Ritchie, joined here, as always, by my co-host Azul GG. What's up, Azul? How we doing, man?
Doing pretty good. Pretty excited for Silver Tempest. It's actually really close. I didn't even realize how. I guess it's because like so much traveling the last month or so with everything that I didn't really realize how soon the next set is. But yeah, 2 weeks away from Silver Tempest. So gonna be talking about that a little bit today with Lugia. But yeah, super excited for super excited for Silver Tempest, a new set, freshen it up a little bit.
Definitely.
But you, Chip, how was your week?
Week's been pretty good. Yeah, we're recording this. We usually record Monday nights. We release on Tuesday. So it is currently Halloween. I guess it's not Halloween because it's after midnight for me, but it's still Halloween for Azul. So we had the baby's first Halloween, and we also get a lot of trick-or-treaters in our neighborhood. Do you guys get any trick-or-treaters at all, Azul? You have any of that?
I mean, we don't do any trick or treating around here. I mean, I'm
Okay.
sure there's trick or treaters out there, but
Azul's like the Halloween Grinch, I guess. No trick or treating at Azul's house. No,
I
but
mean, I'm
we
here doing the podcast. I don't have time to give out the candy.
no, but we had a bunch of trick or treaters come through. I had the Pokemon booster packs or the trick or trade packs. I was able to get a couple bags of those and gave almost
Mhm.
all of them out. They come with each bag comes with 40 packs, so it's 80 packs total, and I have 10 left. So I gave out 70 of the 80 packs. So we had a lot of kids coming through, and everyone was super pumped when they saw Pokemon cards. I had cards and candy, so I let everyone grab one of each at least, and they were loving it. Everyone was super excited about it, which is cool to see. Also, favorite moment of the night for sure was a kid coming up in a Marshmallow, the DJ Marshmallow costume. He took his helmet off as he got up to the front to say trick or treat or whatever. And jokingly, when he walked up there, I was like, "Oh, you're that guy from Fortnite." and, and he gave me the most like annoyed blank stare of any kid I've ever seen. Amazing moment, for
It's pretty
sure.
good.
It was pretty funny, and he was very excited about getting some Pokemon cards. So,
Yeah. Speaking of the Halloween, that's like that was such a super good marketing move by Pokemon.
oh
The
yeah,
Halloween packs, like that was such a good. I think it's also a really cool thing to like have around. But I'm sure they made so much money on people buying those instead of candy, which is actually, to be honest, probably better overall for most kids. Less
yeah,
cavities,
yep.
less sugar, getting more people into Pokemon. So it's a good thing overall, I think, for the Pokemon TCG, of course. But yeah, it's super good, Mark. Whoever came up with that idea
And
needs to get it raised for sure.
yeah, and I think they did it right as well because there's no like ultra rares or anything like that in the packs that are going to cause adults to like overly scalp the product. I think when they first
Mhm.
came out, they were pretty hard to get, just kind of how most Pokemon things have been. But later on in the month of, I think I got them in like early mid October, I was able to grab 2 bags of them. So yeah, I was able to get a couple bags because I knew I'd give out at least one full bag. Um, but yeah, it was definitely great. And like I said, all the kids were super pumped about it. Like even kids who like, you know, it was like the older sibling was like, "Oh, Pokemon cards," and the little one would be like, "Oh, Pokemon!" Like they get excited about it too. I don't know, it was just fun. So yeah, definitely enjoyed that a lot. Halloween's always a fun time. I had a great time with Halloween when I was a kid, so I love getting to kind of be on the other side of that, be the adult handing out the candy and the treats and stuff like that, and seeing them just running wild for a night for sure, which is great. But
Yeah.
yeah, enough of Halloween. On to the Pokemon cards, and we're gonna kick it off by talking about the Lille France meta breakdown. So we did talk about the results of that tournament last week on the podcast. So if you missed that and want to see those results, feel free to check out that episode. But we did get a little bit of an update through the actual meta chart, so showing exactly how many people from who participated in the tournament played each specific deck archetype, and it's pretty similar to what we've seen from the American regionals as well. The top 5 decks kind of looking like they're staying pretty much the same. Number 1 and number 2 staying steadfast and true, being the Comfy with the Giratina V-Star, and of course Curum V Star, or sorry, Curum V Max. This does say V Star, but it should be Curum V Max with Palkia V Star. So, honestly, at
Yeah.
this point, probably not that big of a surprise, right?
Yeah, I guess not. And I think how close was this to actually Salt Lake City? Because Salt Lake City was Tina first, Kiram second. Was Palkia third at Salt Lake City as well? I think it was.
I think so. It's the same
Um,
5. The order might be a little
yeah.
mismatched, but I'm pretty
And
sure.
then
I'm pretty sure it actually is this exact 5 order.
yeah. So then Palkia at number 3, Mew down there at number 4, and then yeah, the Sables are, and then past that, it's like a little bit less relevant, I guess. Past those, I feel like, but it's pretty close overall, right? There's only 10 difference between the Kyurem and the Tina, only 9 difference between Palkia and Mew, and then 3 between Sablezard and Mew. People still feels like people are still pretty scared of playing Mew just because of how much Drapion
Yeah.
there was. But like we talked about last week, the winner of the
Yes.
tournament was like, they played Mew, and enough people cut the Drapion. So and sometimes that's just you run it like that, and sometimes that's just how it goes. Enough people cut the tech cards, even though it is such a good tech card.
Sure.
Up against such a strong deck, but yeah, sometimes it works out. So yeah, nothing too surprising at all. I don't think, right?
No.
Um,
Yeah, Reggie
a lot
Gigas,
of
I
the
think
same.
like even after the dominance in Salt Lake City being 4 of the top 8 spots, still being at down here at like the number 7, 8 spot, maybe would have thought it would be a little higher, but Reggie
Yeah,
Gigas is just one of those decks that it's never going to be that popular, right? It's never going to be a top 3 deck, I don't feel like, in the meta.
yeah. I feel like it's almost like I feel like it's a deck that has like an unfair stigma about it. Like a lot of people were calling it Greninja Break on Twitter, pre Salt Lake City, which I
Yeah,
think is
like modern
extremely.
Greninja.
I feel like those people. I don't think any of them played Greninja back when Greninja was a deck. There was a reason. There's only one person to see consistent success with Greninja, and Gigas a little bit different. I think definitely a little bit different. If you've played both decks, you know that Gigas. If you played both decks and you were, you could competently pilot both, you understand that Gigas is not Greninja for sure. And we even saw the first seed from Lille from day 1 to day 2 was Gigas as well.
Yeah,
They definitely had a little bit of a falling off. Coming at 801, you're usually feeling pretty confident about making a top 8 at that point, especially playing a deck that still is, I think, even at that point was in such a good spot with where the field was, but they weren't able to, get into the top 8. But yeah, I was actually, but I even said, like I said, I feel like Europeans a little bit less so wanting to play Gigas, but I think overall it is some more that the deck does just kind of have um, an unfair stigma. Is stigma the right word? That feels like the right word to me.
yeah,
Is that
yeah,
the
it
right?
is.
Yeah.
It definitely is.
Yeah. An unfair stigma attached to it where it's like it's clunky, it's inconsistent. Um, but it's not that clunky or inconsistent. I definitely think it deserves more respect. I think it definitely should be like if you're like talking about how powerful a deck is versus how popular it should be like in the top 4, I feel like at least.
Sure. And maybe we'll see that change a little bit with the next set. In theory, against Lugia, you've got Aleki, can hit for weakness if there's no Dunsparce, anything like that. We'll talk about Lugia a little bit more later on. But I think, on paper, maybe there's a chance for Gigas to see an uptick in popularity. It certainly doesn't gain any bad matchups, it feels like, with Silver Tempest. So maybe it's something people should keep on their radar as we head into the Latin American International Championships later on this month. But there is still one more regional championships in this format, the Warsaw Regionals in Poland. We'll be talking about that and give our thoughts a little bit more in depth in next week's episode for where the meta is currently. But it seems like, based on the last 3 major tournaments having pretty similar top 5 results, if you're someone who likes to kind of, make those big meta calls, we've got a pretty defined meta as far as what the top 5 is going to be, and what order those 5 are going to fall in is pretty close as well, right? So maybe there's some room there for someone to try to take advantage of that. Who knows?
Yeah, possibly. Like this would be the time, if, like in this format, if a control deck was going to have its moment, which we did see 3 Mewtwo V Unions make day 2 at Lille. Um, it's very hard, I think, with the decks that are good in the current meta, though, for a control deck to do it. But I mean, now that you kind of know what you're up against, this would be the time for some kind of control deck to do it. But I think the meta is overall a little bit too wide for someone to kind of make like a call like that.
Sure.
overall. I think there's two like the decks are kind of like too versatile amongst, between like I would say just between like Tina, Palkia, and Mew, like trying to beat all three of those decks that are so powerful is just like impossible. It almost feels like an impossible feat. Like being able to tackle like Kira or Sablezard, I feel like those are a little bit easy to kind of counter. But Mew, Palkia, and Giratina, such versatile decks,
Yeah.
all so powerful. I think it's almost going to be impossible to get like a really broken kind of meta call. But I would love to see it happen. So hopefully something at Warsaw does pop up.
Yeah, I really liked Charlie Lockyer's Vikavolt deck that we saw from him early day one in Salt Lake City. He did not make it into day two, but on stream in day one, he played against Tina VSTAR with Comfy, and that matchup just seems so insanely good for the Vikavolt deck. But I have to imagine that you've got the Drapion, I guess. If you play double Drapion, maybe you beat the Mew, but if you only have the one, Mew could probably be tough. Palkia, you're a lightning type, so you've got that benefit, but Palkia can still hit you really hard for just 2 energy, which is where the downside of decks like that are going to be. So maybe there's room for something, control, or item lock, something like that, to pop up and do well. But yeah, I mean, it's the last tournament of the format. So if you think you've got a chance, if you're listening, if you're in Europe or if you're going to Europe for the tournament, now's your time. Take advantage of it. Let's see if someone can make something happen for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it would definitely be cool to see. The other tournaments that we did have this weekend, not last weekend. Last weekend was Lille. This weekend were two tournaments over in Asia. One was in Indonesia, and one was in Malaysia, I
That's right.
believe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one in Malaysia, one in Indonesia. So these are not TPCI tournaments. These were TPC tournaments. So for anyone
Yeah.
who might be confused what that means, TPC, the Pokemon company, is the parent, the Pokemon company in Japan, based out of Japan. They take care of and run all of the tournaments in Asia, including Malaysia, Indonesia, all that. And then the Pokemon Company International, which is based out of Seattle or Washington, or there's also the office in London, England as well. They will run the tournaments for the rest of the world. So these are not tournaments where players are earning championship points or anything like that, but they do have their own qualification path to worlds. I'm unsure exactly how it works. I kind of think it depends on which country you're in as well, but I'm not 100% certain on that. We should definitely try to kind of know those things a little bit better, I guess. But
Yeah, I have no clue. I
our
know, like,
focus is pretty much mostly on how things work for where we're playing and casting and working and stuff, right? So
yeah, I know that I've heard like a bunch of different weird ways you can like qualify for worlds from Japan. Like it depends on like how the level of the tournament, but I think you just have to like place so high, and if you get enough placements, that gives you a day two invite basically.
yeah,
'Cause I'm pretty sure I saw Tuan Lei tweet out after getting top 32 or top 16 at a tournament after dropping to go to the dentist the next day, or because they couldn't play the next day of the tournament because they had to go to the dentist, and they were like, "Well, this placement still gets me my day two invite, so
yeah,
I'm all
yeah,
good."
yeah.
So it was just like that top 16 placement. I think it was just like a number of placements got them there. I'm not sure.
Got it.
And it's really interesting, actually. One thing I would be curious to know would be, I mean, you have players like Shintaro, right? Who is, one of the best players in the world, one of the best players in Japan. Um, but if it's a lottery system to get into their tournaments, does Shintaro get like lenience, and does Shintaro get to play in all the tournaments? Like now with, we just had Daichi get second place at Worlds. Um, what if Daichi just doesn't ever win out on these lottery systems and never gets to play and doesn't get to come back to Worlds next year? Oh no, I guess Daichi will because they got top
Yeah,
four. They automatically get an invite. So I
yeah.
guess Shintaro would be the one I'm curious about then. Daichi's there. Shintaro was at Worlds this year.
I would
But
imagine
will
there's probably not a system that places favor onto certain players, but they just have. I mean, they've still got a decent amount of tournaments, and the country is a little bit
yeah.
smaller than the U.S., right? So it's a little easier for them to
Well,
travel across the country and stuff to get to
yeah, but
different
they have the
tournaments and
but if you
all.
just get unlucky in the lot system, do you just is Shintaro just not
Just
going to come to
bodied.
Worlds one year? Like that sounds ridiculous. One of
Yeah,
like the best placing Worlds players at Worlds ever just doesn't get to show up to Worlds because of the lottery system. That's like, so I'm actually curious. I would actually be curious, like if like players of Shintaro's stature and level just get like a little bit of a, because I think it would be reasonable. I don't think that would be like a bad thing to have in the system. But it's just something that crossed my mind that I never actually got an answer to. So if anyone knows, anyone from Japan or who has played over there or has just an idea of their system, I'd be curious to know in the comment section on the YouTube. How does it work over there as far as that kind of stuff goes? Or, is Shintaro just in the lottery system like everyone else?
sure.
If anyone has any idea.
So let's take a look at the results of these two tournaments. They were pretty sizable tournaments. The Malaysia Regional League. So it's not a regional championship like we have there, called Regional League tournaments. In Malaysia, 124 players, and then in Indonesia, 221. It was the same format, Sword and Shield through Lost Origin. There was no new cards, no Lugias or anything like that legal just yet. And the Malaysia Regionals was won by Hisuian Zork VSTAR. So this was a deck we talked about leading into Lille. Something you said, Azul, that you felt like had a pretty solid matchup spread. And Aravan Akilan, who played the deck, went 10-0 with it. So seemed like the matchup spread and the draws just really went their way that day. Zork, I think something on paper that seems solid in practice. It can be a little clunky, but it worked out. 10-0, pretty good result without a doubt.
Yeah, 10-0. And there was actually 3 Zoroarks in
Yeah.
top cut. And there was also 2 Palkias, 1 Urshifu, Inteleon. I've actually been seeing some Rapid Strike Urshifus pop up in tournaments recently.
Yeah, I think Tord
On
plays it on his stream like almost every single day, so that probably influences it somewhat. Tord just has some sort of love affair with that bear, I guess.
And then there was a Giratina as well. But yeah, Zoroark, 3 Zoroark in top 8. We've seen only 1 other Zoroark in a top 8 before these tournaments, I believe. I guess one thing to kind of mention is, well, I think Zoroark's pretty consistent overall. It's just that its matchup spread, I feel like, is where it kind of lacks. But it was best of 1, I believe, up until top cut. So consistency, I think, has a slight edge over kind of more teched out decks because you're just playing less games, so you have less chance to use your techs in powerful ways. So something being straightforward, consistent, especially if you know that, you can build your list even that much more towards consistency, which is maybe why we saw the Zoroark success here overall. But yeah, I've always talked about Zoroark. I think it's a very powerful deck. If you know you're going to be going up against other multi-prize Pokemon, right? If you're going up against Palkias and Tinas, it's just when you start to hit like the Reggies and the Sablezard, stuff like that, where the dex definitely comes up a little bit short, I feel like. But if you're just going to be hitting multi-prize Pokemon all day, I do think Zoroark's pretty powerful. It's like the ultimate beat stick deck.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, if we're taking a look at going back to the little meta chart, we see Reggie and Sableye Charizard are still pretty reasonably popular. That makes up those two decks a decent chunk of the meta, but it is entirely possible that you could play a tournament and only hit one or hit neither of those two decks. The other top decks just make up such a bigger percent of the meta. So yeah, Zoroark seems good. Obviously worked out very well for Athavan, and we will look as well at the Indonesia Regional League results, which had 2 Curum VMAX facing off in the finals. A player called Fairco was able to win at an 11-3 record.
Yeah, so Kyurem VMAX, another deck. So this one I'm not. I'm like of Zoroark. I actually kind of like, so I think it's cool Zoroark one. I'm not a huge fan of Kyurem, and there's not only 2 in the finals. There's actually 3 in top 8 total. So Kyurem, it almost seems like Kyurem dominated this tournament, but then you realize there's 4 Mew VMAX in top 8 as well. So Mew VMAX, slightly more dominant as far as the top 8 placements go, but both Kyurems in the finals. So I'm assuming they probably were bringing the Drapions to get ahead of the Mews overall. Matchup's not terrible without the Drapion, but it's a pretty big. But yeah, this has been one of the most popular decks, and I feel like this is just like a lot of people's like favorite deck. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan, but it doesn't mean other people aren't, and it definitely has kind of seems to have stuck around. I thought this Kyurem would fall off in popularity post Peoria, but it's kind of maintained its popularity, and it seems like people still really enjoyed the deck. It's very powerful. Lot of options. You got Palkia, you got Greninja, you got the Kyurem, of course, that can get hit really hard, or as hard as you need it to, basically. And
As
yeah,
hard as
finally
anything.
see it finally see it come out on top here. And definitely different results here with these top 8s. Like when you compare them to, everything else we've had up to this point, Kyurem dominating, and then also Zoroark dominating, which is something we haven't seen. We did have the 2 Kyurems in top 8 of Salt Lake City, or not Salt Lake
Top
City, of
4.
Peoria.
Top 4.
2 in top 4 of Peoria, but not quite as successful as these placements here.
Yeah, so the first place Curum list did play. The Drapion Lee lists were posted over on the PokeStats
Okay.
Twitter. So, yeah, the first place list did play the Drapion. The other 2 in top 8 did not play Drapion, actually, though. They both opted for Empoleon. First place list does not play Empoleon, though. First place list is pretty interesting. Actually, only 2 Irida, 3 Melanie, the 4 VIP pass. Other than that, I guess is pretty straightforward. 3-3 Kyurem and 2-2 Palkia. So Yeah, I mean, just a pretty consistent list overall. Light on the Irida, I would say. I feel like most of the time I still see 3 to 4 Irida in there, and then 3 to 4 Melanie. So a little bit light on the supporters, but did play 3 Marnies. That might be
Yeah.
why, I guess, fitting the extra Marnies in there. Also played a Research, a card that we don't see that much of, which is kind of funny to say.
Yeah, in the deck you don't really see too many research. I like the Marnies though. Lost Zone decks, like, it seems like maybe that's the way the deck should gravitate towards to deal with Tina more handily. Like Tina is the most popular deck in the format. Lost Zone decks just don't like being Marnie. They don't have that many draw supporters, and they kind of set up their hand to deal with the current situation, and then hopefully give themselves options into the next turn. So if you're just constantly Marnie spamming them, you're usually coming out on top in kind of the resource advantage, at least, or efficiency advantage, where they have to all of a sudden they're like extending really hard with their comb fees to try and keep going turn after turn,
Yeah.
and that can lead to some pretty bad lost zone options. So the Marnie spam is probably just there for the lost zone matchups. And also, did you see the cards that they actually get for? I think it's like the
I
top
was
four. Those are actually
just
pretty sick.
thinking about how I wanted to talk about this. Yes, for getting into the top 4, they get given these trophy cards, which is so sick. And it makes me so jealous that we don't get anything like that for our regional championships. I mean, the medal is cool and all, but a card to take home would be pretty sweet, to be honest. And it wouldn't even have to be. I mean, they could at minimum just take whatever the regional promo is for that tournament, like Colress's Experiment, that everyone gets for signing up, and just
Yep.
stamp the champion or top 4, top 8, whatever on it. Though I will say, like, this actual trophy card, I'm trying to make it so they can see it good on the YouTube video, but this actual trophy card, very, very cool. It's, I think, a unique promo as well. I don't remember exactly what it does, but it's got Zacian and Zamazenta on there. Very cool.
Yeah, it would make sense that, I mean, we're a card game, so having some kind of trophy card, or like we've had, we used to get, battle roads, you'd get victory medals, and
Yes.
then league cups you used to get. I forget what it's called. No, that was that was victory medal. Battle roads used to get something else. I don't
Victory
remember.
Cup.
Victory cup, I think. Yeah, that might be it.
And
So
then
that
even
would
for
be.
league challenges, you get first, second, third, and fourth place cards.
Oh yeah, that's right. You still, those are still
But you
things.
don't get
Yeah.
them for any other level of tournament.
Yeah. Well, for worlds you do. Worlds you get
Yes,
the.
yeah.
Yeah. So they
And the
suck.
ICs and the ICs.
Oh, and ICs you do as well. Yeah. So where are the regional ones?
There's none
They
for
just
regionals
like
and none for league cups.
none for regionals, none for they should at least bring them to regional. I feel like that's like a really good. Yeah. Just like even I think even like, and I'm sure a lot of people would love to like even just like a day 2. If you like when you make day 2, if you had like a day 2 stamped card, that would be sick. It'd be a great like kind of achieve like when people achieve that achievement, even though their first day 2, that little bit of memorabilia would be sick. And then top 8, top 4, if it was like some kind of championship like exclusive regional promo that's like not playable in tournaments, that'd be fine. Or even, yeah, like you said, just taking the current promo for regionals, which right now is Colress, and putting a top 8 stamp, a top 4 stamp, finalist and champion stamp would be sick as well. So I feel like most other card games do that. Like I feel like Magic does that. They might not do it for their regionals. They do it for some stuff. Most card games do that because it makes sense. You're a card game. You may as well have trophy cards. So Pokemon should bring that to our regionals. They should do that at some point. I don't know what it would be, but they should do something.
Yeah, give us cards, Pokemon. I mean, they give us, like, actual cards. And you also, getting top 4, you just got a medal. You got any thoughts about the?
Yeah.
I mean, you've collected quite a few different types of trophies over the years, different plaques and stuff from the old regionals. Do you have a preference on the new medal system at regionals as opposed to the actual trophy that you used to get?
So everyone who I've talked about this says that they wish they were still trophies. I think the reason I'm a little bit more
If you say
impartial
right now
to
that
the
you like have too many
yes, that's literally
trophies
why I'm
taking
gonna
up,
say it.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Well, it's because I have so many of the
I have
regionals
I have
bricks
so
that like I want
many
something
of the
different.
regional plaque trophies.
I
I
was
just needed more space. I'm so happy they did medals. Do you
no,
hear
it's not about
yourself?
space. It's because it is because I have a lot of. That is literally the only reason I care. That's the only reason I like the medals is because it's something different than just another plastic brick that you can't read unless you get really close to it. So, what I would love them to do, and I wish I had one out so I could show the people on YouTube at least. The old regionals trophies and stage trophies are so sick. Yeah, those are so sick. So if they could bring those back, I don't know if Chip's gonna try and find a
Yeah.
picture of one of them to show you. But those are so incredibly sick. They're actual glass. They're huge. They're just incredible. So if they could bring those back, that'd be sick. I'm personally a fan of the medals because yes, I do have so many regional bricks that I just want something different to add to kind of the collection. That's also why I was excited that they changed up the IC trophies because I already have the second place one from LAIC a while ago. So they switched that up. Different kind of trophy is cool. But I'm not like I think they could have done better. I think the medals are okay. Personally, a fan because it's something different, and my goal is to try and get a little bit of everything.
All
But
right, I found
personally,
a
a fan.
good
But
a good example on Google for anyone who's watching on YouTube of just the different trophies. So here's an old state championship trophy. It's a really big piece as well. I've seen some of them. I didn't play back when these were given out, but yeah, very big. Regional championships are kind of the same way. And then here's what the more modern regional trophies looked like. And I think they used to give you these for winning like even just cities and states as well for a little while. But yeah,
states, yeah.
Azul
Oh, you mean
probably.
yeah.
I think for a while you
The
did get
newer
them
age
for
ones.
cities
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
Yeah, all
Um,
the same shape, just like different size. They got bigger. Like they're small. Like the cities ones and the states ones are smaller.
and they've started to change the trophies up a little bit the past few years. This is traditionally what the World's Trophy has looked like, where it's just a Pikachu on top of a pedestal holding a little miniature trophy. This year at Worlds, they changed it up a little bit more, making it a little bit more defined. I think Azul back there in his background has his NA. Is that your NAIC trophy right there?
Yeah, over here.
So, they've definitely changed it up, and I'm definitely a fan of making them look a little bit more unique year over year. So I'm glad to see them
Yeah.
doing something different with the medals, and maybe that those resources went into making the World's Trophy and the NAIC trophies or the IC trophies a little bit more unique, which is not a bad thing.
The IC trophies are cool. The medals are okay. Like I said, my personal reason is just because it's something different, which is cool. But I think they could go a step further. Like I said, the old regional trophies were super sick. If they went back to that and kept it like that for forever, I would be 100% content. But I feel like we're probably not going to get back there anytime soon. But who knows? Maybe.
Probably not. Probably not. Well, and we can move on from this discussion and move into the Pokemon TCG Live Global Beta has been confirmed to be releasing this month, in the month of November. Now, we talked about this, I think it was last week, if not last week, the week before. We read the letter to the community from the PTCG Live devs where they said by the end of the year they wanted the Global Beta to go live, but now it has been confirmed on the forums. Someone posted a question and a TPCI admin from the forums responded and said, in the most recent letter that was put out, we called out looking to expand the beta globally by the end of November. So far, nothing has changed on our end so soon. And I think it was on PokeBeach, actually, they pointed out that all of the previous month releases have been on Tuesdays. So I would expect it to come out on a Tuesday globally in the next couple weeks, most likely.
Yeah, is that what they do? Like all the updates? Because I feel like PTCG also updated on Tuesdays. Maybe it's Wednesdays though. Usually, it's definitely one
It
day
must
is
just be a
definitely the
good
most
day
common
for
day.
developers, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe it's the best day. Maybe it's the time when the least amount of people are playing games or something. Maybe
Middle
that
of
is
the
like the Tuesdays and
week.
Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it'd
yeah,
be a
I
part
mean,
of
it's
it.
finally coming, finally releasing globally, which is a good thing, right? Who knows how far
I
we are away
hope.
from the official launch? That's still a ways away. And I actually finally played some PTCG Live. It's been a while. I think I need to play a little bit more, but before I give like too hard of a critique of where it's at right now. But it definitely did not feel as good as PTCGO yet. There's still a lot of things that are like just kind of, I guess, jarring is the way to put it. Like that's one thing we talked about is like they did increase the pace of play through reducing animations and stuff like that, but it literally felt like they just literally turned it to 11. They were just like turn it up, turn the speed of the animations up, and they didn't like actually make new animations that feel fluid. So that was a little jarring. And there's still some of the old stuff that is still just a little bit weird. Like a lot of the times when the cards get really big, they're just really pixelated, like just low quality images. Like they took an image of a certain size and literally just blew it up instead of like taking an image of the bigger quality and making it smaller. I don't even know how to explain it, but like it just looks bad when the cards are like really big sometimes. So a lot of things that are still pretty jarring. The gameplay's not super smooth. The board state looks way better. So a lot of things are improving, but I still feel like as far as like the overall, and I still see tweets on Twitter about like bugs that are like happening all the time. So obviously that stuff needs to be cleaned up. Visually, I think there's still an improvement. Functionally, there still needs to be some improvements because it still feels better. I would rather play on PTCGO still after that one game. Like I said, I should put a little bit more time in there because I didn't play a whole ton. I've only played one match the other day with it. So should still put a little bit more time in there. But overall, I think I'd still rather be playing on PTCGO. Doesn't mean you shouldn't try out the beta when it launches. I just wouldn't convert your, or what is it, merge your account, migrate your account over to PTCG Live until you give it a little bit of time. Make sure it's something you want to commit to. And if it is, then go for it. But definitely take the time to figure out if that's something you want to commit your whole PTCGO card collection over there. Because once you go over, you can't come back. So it's improving. It is taking a long time. Finally, the beta will be global. And I don't know. Hopefully by the end of next year, we'll have a full release, but who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, hopefully, with the beta going global this month, they'll start to be able to collect more and more feedback. And that's really the main purpose of the beta is for them to collect the feedback, find issues, and hopefully adjust and fix those things before the final global launch. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, but I mean, they wanted this game to come out this time last year, and that did not happen, right? Like they
Yeah.
thought they thought it was going to be ready this time last year. So it's
Well, someone did.
been yeah, someone thought. I mean, we've been getting code cards for the last year that say play today, PTCG live, and well, if you're living in most of the world, you can't. I mean, I guess at this point
Yeah.
it's out in a pretty high amount of countries, but
Yeah.
but yeah, to echo what Azul said, definitely do not transfer your account over. I would say probably, I mean, there's really no real reason to transfer over unless you're like really itching to play whatever top tier deck. I would still, I would say take the time on PTCG Live to just play the starter decks that they give you. They're pretty good, which, I mean, there are several things that PTCG Live does do very well, and one of them
Yeah.
is early access to cards, getting like decent competitive cards early on. The starter decks are pretty solid. Getting the more competitive decks, like I think building a Giratina deck might be a little bit more difficult. It's going to take you a lot of credits and stuff like that, which is going to take a lot of time of play. But, play with those starter decks, at least get a feel for the client, see if you like it. And then for your real hardcore testing or for tournament play on the Play Limitless platform, stick to PTCGO. And I think you have to stick to PTCGO still on Play Limitless. So,
Yeah, if you want to still play in the online tournaments, definitely stay on PTCGO. That's actually a good thing to point out there.
yeah.
Man, I had something I was gonna mention, and I completely forgot what it was. Oh, what was it? It was something about PTCG Live.
Oh,
The cat distracted me.
we're talking about not transferring and talking about global launch and feedback for the devs and all that. But
Yeah, I can't remember. Hopefully, it comes back to me. I had some. Oh, something about the. It's eluding me right now. What were we talking about? The codes. Codes are out. They had code cards on
in the card
Rock
for
over a
the YouTube
year.
video, I'm gonna just put Azul tries to
Oh yeah.
remember.
So I mean, and this is not like nothing to do with the beta release or the actual release, but like it just sucks. Like especially like I don't know. Once again, just kind of like venting, letting my feelings out there as a content creator is like watching the release of Marvel Snap. There's just going to be no hype for PTCG Live when it fully launches. There's no hype. It's been out forever. Everyone is getting to play the game in beta. They're slowly releasing it, which kind of like builds up the want and need to get involved in the beta as well. So everyone's going to want to join the beta. There's just not going to be like and it sucks for content creators. I'm sure most content creators would agree with me on this. It's just going to suck. Like it'll fully release and hopefully it's great. Hopefully it's so much better than it currently is. I want that to happen, but and maybe this just sounds like I'm being a little like complaining, but like it just sucks when you look at all the other games when they release for the first time. There's so much hype and such a big deal around it, but we're just not going to have that with PTCG Live because it's been being released and we get to see the whole process of it getting worked on. So there's nothing cool or new to see when it does fully release, right? We as a community have been effectively working on the game for the past year, so
Yeah.
so that'll kind of suck. It'll fully release, and we'll know everything that's about it. There's nothing be new to discover. There's not going to be a ton of hype behind it. It's not going to invigorate a bunch of people to want to get on the game, probably. So as a content creator, that just kind of sucks.
Yeah, and I mean to talk about Marvel Snap a little bit, and I think I said this when I talked about it a couple weeks ago. I mean, I've been playing that game a pretty decent amount. I'm not sure if you've gotten to play anymore or not, Azul, but I've been
No,
playing it
not
a
yet.
decent amount. I'm in pool 2 right now with the cards. And man, it just feels so good. Doing anything with the cards just feels great. Moving them to the different lanes, the animations, the effects that happen, the game just feels amazing, and it makes me want to go in and play it more. You know, every single time I've got a few minutes to play a game, I'm trying to play a game. So, um, I want that experience, like the feeling I have about that with Marvel Snap. I want thousands and thousands and thousands of people across the country, across the world, to have that desire to play the Pokemon TCG, to play the online version of the game. And I'm just not confident that it's going to happen where PTCG Live is at right now. Hopefully, some changes can happen with the beta, and before global release, maybe the global release there'll be some big shifts and big updates and a big push from marketing to get it out there. And if all those things happen, maybe there's a decent chance that we see PTCG Live be successful. But where it's at right now, I'm hopeful, but a little apprehensive.
Yeah, before I can hear someone type in the comment right now. Before someone says Snap games take 2 minutes, Pokemon games like take 15 minutes. They're not comparable. The point is that like Pokemon is a very good game at its core. It's very fun and enjoyable, and it's pretty easy to get into. But if the experience of actually playing the game on PTCG Live is not quick and rewarding and enjoyable through the ease of play of cards, no real hold up, the animations aren't slowing down the game, everything just feels smooth and fun, then I mean that's the experience that we want PTCG Live to have. And it really sucks when we've been on PTCGO for 10 years and it feels better to play on PTCGO than it does PTCG Live. It just gives, and then something like Snap comes out, which is, a new game created by a big company. PTCG Live is a new game created by a very big company as well. Not as big as, at this point, yeah, probably not. I mean, not as big as Marvel or I guess Disney, right? I don't know if it's as big, but I don't think when you're both billionaires, when you're both $1 billion companies, I don't think it matters at that point.
Big enough. You get to a point where it's just
they're
big
both
enough.
big. They're both big enough that they should both be able to come out with a very fun and enjoyable game of what's it called, and especially when you compare it to the Pokemon game. Once again, Snap was a whole new game. Pokemon, once again, you're just kind of you don't have the game is not needing to be remade or anything. You just try to make it work. But so far it's been the struggle. So hopefully, like I said, hopefully we're hopeful. We're here now. This is what we have to work with. So hopefully, at the final release, it's a good product. I'm hoping.
Yeah, we'll definitely both be playing it more whenever the beta fully comes out. I mean, I've been playing Snap a lot because I can play it on my phone, and I think that's one of the biggest selling points for PTCG Live is the fact that you can play it on an iPhone. I know you can play.
Yep.
You can play through the Google Play Store. I think if you download the APK, can play it on Android phones, but it's still like a workaround, I think, to be able to play it on Android phones. Like you can't just go onto the actual store, I'm pretty sure. So once it actually comes out into just like the general app stores, and it's very easy for any person who has one of these phones just go on and get the game, that's going to make it just give so much more access. So many more people are going to try it out, which is exciting. And hopefully we'll see a bit of, growth in that aspect whenever that finally does happen and come out. So,
Yep.
Well, I think it's time, Azul, for everyone's favorite segment of the podcast, Guess That Flavor Text, where each week one of the two of us will pick a Pokemon card and read the fun little bit of text in the corner, aka the flavor text, and the other person has to try to guess which Pokemon we are reading the card for. You do get access to 3 lifelines. If you get it correct without using any lifelines, that's 4 points to you. For each lifeline you use, you lose a point. And those 3 lifelines are what set the card is from, what stage the card is, and read an attack name. It is my turn this week to pick for Azul. We're each on a bit of a streak. The last card I picked, Azul was able to get. The last card Azul picked, I was able to get. So we are tied at 4-4. No longer 3-3. It is 4-4. We'll see if Azul's got a chance to keep it rolling here this week. Azul, what do you think? Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's see if I can get another point. Keep the streak going.
By imitating the voice of a child, it causes people to get hopelessly lost deep in the forest. It's trying to make friends with them.
I have 100% read this one before. I'm pretty sure I do this little thing. I have a channel point redemption on my stream. I think I mentioned this before, where people can redeem me to read a Pokemon flavor text. And this one sounds super familiar. All right, so go ahead, read to me one more
So it
time.
sounds like you're getting a little cheating, right? Because you just get a little.
That's
You're
not no.
by imitating the voice of a child, it causes people to get hopelessly lost deep in the forest. It's trying to make friends with them.
Okay, so it's definitely some kind. I think I'm pretty sure it's some kind of ghost Pokemon. For some reason, Phantump is coming to mind. Um, and I guess like another one I could think of would be not. Oh, I forget. There's Driftloon. No, but I think Driftloon. No, is Driftloon or Driftblimp? Is that the one that flies away with the children? I don't know. One of them flies away with children, so I don't think it's one of those. Phantump is coming to mind as one of them. Maybe Duskull. I think it's some type of ghost Pokemon. I think I'm gonna need a little bit more though to figure this out. So I'm gonna go with what stage the card is.
It is a basic.
All right, so now I'm like a little bit more fan of Phantump as the choice. Duskull is still an option as well. Like I said, I think it's still some kind of ghost type Pokemon like that. Can't think of any others off the top of my head. Doesn't sound like a Ghastly. Doesn't sound. I'm gonna go with another one. Read an attack name.
Spooky Shot.
So that's not Phantump. I don't think there's a Phantump with a spooky shot attack. Now I'm a little bit less confident. I feel like it could be Mimikyu as well. I think that sounds like on what's it called for Mimikyu? On brand for Mimikyu. Some Mimikyus, but I guess I'm gonna use them all here. What set is the card from? Even though this one does little for me, we'll see.
It is from Cosmic Eclipse.
Cosmic Eclipse. I'm pretty sure there's a Mimikyu in Cosmic Eclipse. So yeah, I'm gonna lock in Mimikyu.
There is a Mimikyu in Cosmic Eclipse, but it is not Mimikyu Azul. It is Phantump.
No way! No shot!
It is Phantump from Cosmic
gosh!
Eclipse with 2 attacks, Mumble and Spooky Shot, a psychic type Pokemon, 60 hit points. But
Like, Phantump evolves into Trevenant, right?
It does evolve into Trevenant, yes.
Oh, dude, I was right off the money. I was off the rip. I was on it. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I knew there was a Mimikyu in Cosmic, or I was pretty sure. I didn't know about a Phantump.
There are actually
like,
2 Mimikyu in Cosmic Eclipse.
Yeah. Yeah, they were taken over back in the day.
Yeah, you played one of these in one of the Players' Cups, I think, right? The Shadowbox Mimikyu.
Yeah,
I think.
Shadowbox.
Or it was like a thing that people played in Pikarom maybe a little bit. It got played for a while, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's so unfortunate.
You had it.
Right.
It was on the tip of your tongue. You wanted to go the Phantump route, but couldn't pull the trigger.
And there's been a couple times now. This is one of them where I've been like confident initially that I think I know what it is. And then there was that one time I was super confident. I just guessed off the rip. I was like, I think this is it.
You were
and then
so wrong.
And then the last 2 times, SQ, and now this one, I was like, I'm pretty sure this is the Pokemon, but I kept going, and now this one, if I just stopped guessing and just locked in Phantump, every guess got me further and further away from Phantump. Because Spooky Shot, that doesn't sound. I don't think I've ever seen the Phantump with Spooky Shot. That doesn't sound like a Phantump attack. So
yeah, that's I had to pick between Mumble and Spooky Shot, and I thought that Spooky Shot was more likely to get you off the Phantump trail for sure.
That is unfortunate. Yeah, I thought I had it there. I thought with the Mimikyu, I was like, what are the ghost Pokemon? Are there even there? I didn't know any of them, and there was a Phantump the whole time.
Well, let us know down in the comments if you were able to guess correctly. Did you get Phantump, or were you stumped like Azul was? Also, I did want to be on theme with the whole Halloween, all that stuff. Get us a little ghost type Pokemon, since it is still technically Halloween when we're recording, even though tomorrow when people listen, it won't be. Anyway, we can move on. And it is now time to talk about Lugia VSTAR, and is it unstoppable? So this is the big card coming out of the new set Silver Tempest, and there's just been a lot of discussion about this card this past week. It came out in Japan, this set that Lugia is in Japan. Their set is not called Silver Tempest, it's called something else, but it did come out, and it was legal for the first week of, something else interesting in Japan, when cards come out, they are legal instantly. They are right away legal. So it makes getting
Or are
cards
they?
pretty wild. Yeah.
Interesting.
They're legal upon release. Actually, maybe it was 1 week. I don't remember. I talked to Hexter about it a little bit because he played in one of these uh, City League Championship tournaments anyway. But
It seems like it's so much easier to get cards over there because they have like those decks that are
yes.
like basically constructed standard decks and stuff like that. Like their products are just so much more built towards competitive play.
Yes, absolutely. But there's been a lot of discussion this past week. I mean, there's been some really funny looking pie charts that have come out over on Twitter from some of these Japan tournaments that show just a massive meta share. 50% of top cut being Lugia, 45% of top cut being Lugia, and that discussion has kind of made its way over to English Pokemon Twitter, where people have been saying Lugia just seems pretty good. So real quick, I just want to read through what Lugia does for anyone who's uninformed or isn't exactly sure. We'll talk about what this new deck archetype is meant to do, and then kind of give our thoughts on it. So, Lugia VSTAR, it is an evolving Pokemon, so it evolves from Lugia V. Its attack is Storm Dive for 4 colorless energy. That's right, 4 colorless energy. It does 220 damage, and you may discard a stadium that is in play. And then its V Star power is Assemble Star. You may use this during your turn. Choose up to 2 colorless Pokemon from your discard pile, except for Pokemon with a rule box, and put them onto your bench. And then the card that you're going to be mostly putting onto the bench with Lugia's V-Star power is Archeops, which is a Stage 2 Pokemon. Normally, Stage 2 Pokemon, and being a fossil Pokemon makes it pretty tough for a Pokemon like Archeops to ever see any play. But with Lugia, you can just slap it into play, put it right onto the bench, and it has the ability Primal Turbo. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for up to 2 special energy and attach them to one of your Pokemon. Then shuffle your deck. So an insanely strong ability. The fact that it's on a stage 2 usually would mean it's not going to be great, but Lugia just letting you put them from the discard pile into play, and the fact that you can use both of the Archeops right away to instantly put 4 energy onto the Lugia out of nowhere makes it incredibly good. And then one other card I did want to make sure to read, which is a really important one for the deck, is V Guard Energy. As long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides colorless energy. The Pokemon this card is attached to takes 30 less damage from the attacks of your opponent's Pokemon V. So a little bit of a HP buff, a damage reduction buff to the Lugia as well. Also, you can't apply the effect of V-Guard Energy more than once on a Pokemon. So, yeah, there you go. Lugia V-Star. Those are the new cards coming out that interact really well with it. There's a couple of old cards as well that are pretty strong. Azul, what do you think, man? Are we just gonna see a dumb amount of Lugia V-Star at LAIC in a couple of weeks?
I think so. I think probably. Like I think it seems very strong. Yeah, Archeops insanely powerful when comboed with it. We have capture energy. So you can use that early game, and then that becomes energy in your deck for later. You have powerful energy, you have lucky energy, regenerative energy as well as coming out in this set, which might be played as like a one of, which is like when you evolve a V, it heals 100 damage. So if one of your early Lugia Vs takes some damage, you Archeops a regenerative energy to it, and then you evolve, you heal 100. And you can even play other stuff, right? Like the Lugia sets up the Archeops, but then you can have Aurora energy in there. And any attacker you could ever want, double turbo energy. We've seen stuff like Yveltal, Regigigas, any tech attacker you could possibly want alongside the Aurora energy as well. Like you want to attack with something that's fire or lightning or water, you can do it, right? You can literally do anything with this deck. So extremely versatile card or combo, I guess. You need both. Like it is Lugia and Archeops. It's not Lugia or Archeops. You put them both together to create this insane combo that allows you to basically attack with whatever you want, whenever you want, until you'd run out of energy, I guess. So I think Lugia will be the new best deck in the format. And I think it's going to be what everyone's kind of contending with. And I think the question for all of the current meta decks is, can you beat Lugia? Because if you can't, you probably don't survive Lugia's. You probably don't survive Silver Tempest format. Like if you just don't beat Lugia, if you're playing Giratina or Palkia or Kyurem, doesn't matter. If you don't beat Lugia, I don't think you're a viable deck in the format anymore. I think that's kind of be the what's it called? It used to be Mew, and then could you beat Mew? Now then it was could you beat Palkia? I guess it was could you beat Arceus? It was could you beat Mew? Could you beat Arceus or Mew? Could you beat Palkia? And now it's going to be can you beat Lugia? And that's going to be the big question because you can't deck really can't exist anymore. I think it's going to be pretty insane.
Does seem strong. I mean, with the powerful colorless energy and the choice belt, you just need two powerful colorless energy and a choice belt puts you up to hitting for 290. So that's enough to be knocking out all the 280 HP Pokemon. Stack
Yep.
one more powerful colorless on there, and then now you're knocking out things like Mew VMAX. You're knocking out opposing Lugias with a V Guard energy on them. And you talked about some of the other ways people are playing the decks. I've got a list pulled up here from Japan that's got 4 Aurora energy in here. It's got the Radiant Charizard, which seems like a pretty popular choice. You know, late game,
Hmm.
it can just come in for 1 energy, do a bunch of damage. Something else I've seen from a lot of the Japanese lists is the amazing rare Eviltal, which you
Yep.
can power up right away. You just need to attach 1 energy from hand, pull a twin energy out of the deck, and then 3 Aurora energies, and you're gonna be you don't even need to attach from hand. You just pull the twin energy out in 3 Auroras, and you just one hit KO anything with the amazing
It just
destruction
knocks
attack.
out.
Yeah, just knocks it out. Gudra, no problem. Lugia, no problem. Anything you're going up against can just take care of it. And it's also interesting to look at kind of what the rest of these pie charts look like from these Japan Champion League or City League tournaments, not Champions League, City League tournaments. So these would be kind of similar to like a League Cup for us, but they are way bigger, and there's a lottery system to get into the League Cup pretty much. So it's like somewhere between a League Cup and a regional championship for us is the size of these tournaments. The second most played deck on both the pie charts I'm looking at, we've got second most played deck of Duraludon in one, and then third most played deck of Duraludon in one. So, I mean, Duraludon making a comeback, I guess. Azul, thoughts?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, and maybe that's probably why people are playing the Evital, right? Because that's still KO's Duraludon.
Yeah.
So they go, they go Arceus, you go KO the Arceus with the Lugia, they go Duraludon, punch your Lugia, not even KO, and then you go Evital, 1 hit KO, and the game's just over from there, right? Like, theoretically, you just always have tempo as Lugia because they can only pull off 1 attack with the Arceus before it goes down to a Lugia. So, yeah, even then, it seems like Duraludon probably wouldn't be the answer. You could always do Path to the Peak as well. That could be something. You can play Parasols, I guess, for your Duraludon. But yeah, you could put Path to the Peak in the Lugia if you just want to straight up punch the Duraludons with your Lugias, and you'd win that trade as well, probably because you're like the more aggressive 1 hit KO deck. But it seems like it's gonna be tough to answer. And even then, once someone comes up with like a reasonable answer, because of how versatile the Lugia deck is, you can probably answer the answer pretty reasonably, right? Like
Yeah.
you have 4 Aurora energy in the deck, you can literally attack with whatever you want. So, yeah, it seems tough to be able to come up with an answer for us, and it does seem kind of like it is dominating over there. One of the things that you mentioned was there is some Eternituses in these pie charts,
Yeah.
just barely creeping its way in there, which makes sense. It's not going to really get 1 hit KO'd by a Lugia, and it can 1 hit KO a Lugia. So, it's got the potential there to make a comeback. Maybe Eternatus is back.
Who knows? I mean, yeah, with a Zigzagoon and a Choice Belt, you're doing 310, which hits through the V Guard energy. Eternatus is also a deck that could play Temple of Sinnoh if it wanted to as well. So that's a way you could get through the V Guard energy.
Yep.
So you don't even need the Choice Belt. Full bench plus the Zigzagoon, that's 280. Or leave a bench spot open with Choice Belt and Zigzagoon, which is probably the better outcome, honestly. Leave a bench spot open so you have space for a Crobat on the next turn, because you're probably going to need it. And
Yeah.
Temple of Sinnoh, get through the V Guard energy. Eternatus, yeah, could have a chance to sneak back in there. Also, something to note, Mew VMAX is still pretty reasonably represented, it looks like, but most of the lists I've seen, this account that tweets these graphs out is like a PTCG news account for Japan. I wanted to find, some of these lists I've seen from Mew are actually back to the Fusion Strike energy build, which I think makes a decent amount of sense, right? You get the 4 Fusion Strike energy in play with your modifiers, you can get through. Or I guess V-Guard actually doesn't matter against
Meloetta
Meloetta, right?
specifically.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you just get the 4 in play or 3 plus some modifiers, Meloetta is going to have an easier time getting through a Lugia than a Mew will, for sure.
Yeah, and I think Lugia, like with everything that's coming out, and we'll have to wait and see, right? I think this might be a classic. Now has become a classic top deck thing where the deck just ends up having everything. If you look at like Mew, one of my biggest gripes with Mew and Giratina actually, and Giratina didn't end up being as powerful as something like a Mew or a Palkia in its initial release,
It just
was
has
that
inherent problems with like the Lost Zone engine itself,
yeah,
right?
exactly. But they gave Giratina Shred. Why do you need it? Why did they give Giratina Shred? Why did they give Mew Max Miracle? And then you look at Lugia, V Guard Energy, and even its attack. Does the attack really need the effect of you may discard a stadium? Why does it have that? Like you don't need why are you giving it more? Just like stop at 4 energy and 220 damage and and it's a broken ability,
Listen,
releasing it with Archeops. Why does it have the extra effect on the attack of you may discard a stadium? That's ridiculous.
it
Why does it
doesn't
need that
have a
little bit
shred attack
extra?
though, Azul. It's fine, right?
Yeah, but the Archeops is your shred attack.
Okay, that's true. Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
those little things kind of annoy me a little bit. It's like, and I know the overall the Lugia being able to discard a stadium might not ever be relevant like in a major way, but I just feel like those little things are just like I think the biggest thing that kind of pushes Lugia over the edge is the V Guard energy because it makes it so hard to KO. You're effectively a V Max Pokemon that's worth 2 prize cards. Like your Lugias will always consistently have effectively 310 HP, which is so annoying to have to deal with. So even if and this could come back to the attack, right? Like if people are spamming Temple of Sinnohs, it's not going to be there in play for more than one turn because their attack allows you to remove the stadium. Like,
Yeah,
just
and
like
if they're not boosting their damage with powerful colorless energy, but they still give them four. They still have 4 colorless energy attached,
yeah,
right?
there's
So
still four. Yeah, it's still 4 colors entry. They're still attacking, still removing your stadium. I just hate it when, um, when these really powerful cards are also just given answers to answers like
yeah,
on the card. Like Mew is like, oh, you could put a Miltank. Oh no, you can't. I have Max Miracle. You can't Miltank me. You can't Decidueye me. Same thing with Giratina. You can't Miltank. It can't Decidueye. That never becomes an option as like a way to construct your deck to combat these top tier decks. And Palkia insanely versatile with its options. So nothing like Palkia has been a deck that's been like a tier 1 deck for forever because you literally can't counter the deck. Palkia is like uncounterable for the most part, besides Flying Pikachu, but Flying Pikachu is only viable in a very narrow meta for the most part. And then we got Lugia coming out where it seems like it has all these little things that allow it to counter anything you throw at it as a counter. And also has Dunsparce to work with, right? So like it's Wake to Lightning until Dunsparce is in play. So I don't know. I just hate it when like these really powerful cards get all these extra little things to go with it. It's like you can just stop at put 2 Archeops in play and give it nothing else, and the card is still going to be a tier 1 deck. It's still going to be a tier 1 broken deck. So I don't know. We'll see. I think it is going to be a tier 1 broken deck. I could be wrong. And you know what, to be honest, I do hope I'm wrong. I hope it's maybe a tier 2 deck or just not good at all. That'd be, I think, better overall for the format. But we'll see. Because it looking, as far as from what we've seen from Japan, it's looking pretty good for Lugia.
yeah. I mean, I think Lugia would be pretty bad into something like Regigigas normally, but you mentioned the Dunsparce, which is
Yeah.
massive for the deck. The fact that Dunsparce just can remove the weak. I mean, we normally see it obviously removing the weakness of Arceus VSTAR, getting rid of its fighting weakness, but it just removes the weakness of colorless Pokemon. So it does remove the lightning weakness on Lugia VSTAR as well. So not even getting an answer in the set, but the fact that an answer for that problem just exists in the meta as well,
Yeah.
is pretty good for it. And we've seen a lot of reactions from some of the top players and top content creators as well, talking about how broken Lugia is. Robin Schultz, who is the reigning LAIC champion as well, tweeted out his tier list or a first take on the LAIC meta: S tier Lugia, nothing in A tier, and then Mew, Palkia, and Gigas at B tier. So, I mean, he just seems to, I mean, this could be a little bit of a meme, but also at the same time, maybe him and his testing group just feel like Lugia is a step above the rest of the meta right now.
Yeah, and I think that's a bad thing, right? Because we've already seen it so many times where it kind of leads to, I think, a pretty unenjoyable format overall. It's not terrible, and I don't think it like takes all the skill out of Pokemon. But when Mew released, literally you either played Mew or something that hard countered Mew, which just made a really unenjoyable format. And then Arceus came out, but Arceus's only purpose was to build other decks that could counter Mew. And then we had Palkia come out, and I think Palkia has been the worst of all of them so far, to be honest. And not in the sense that it's like not as unenjoyable to play against as Mew, or even Arceus back when it was just Mew and Arceus. But it's just Palkia was ridiculously strong. I think Palkia and Talion's been one of the most powerful decks I think we've seen in a long time. So if Lugia is just going to come out and make Palkia unplayable because it's that much better than it, that's not healthy. Now, one thing I did say on my stream, and I didn't rant too hard about this on my stream because I was like, look, Pokemon with their video at Worlds being like, okay, it sounds like they don't. It sounds like Pokemon is looking to fix the game, um, and try and make the game different, fundamentally with EXs, right? So all this stuff that we're getting now, the Lugia and this final set, and then maybe are we gonna get like a small set
There's
in
like a mini set.
January?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get something in January. All this stuff has um, been made to work in this format and has been planned to be released for probably a long time now, right? I think we should only really be critiquing the fundamentals of the game. The only time it's really going to matter is once the EX stuff kind of takes over and becomes the main part of the game. That's when, if it still feels really bad like this, that's when we should be concerned. I think right now we don't have to be too concerned. It's gonna kind of suck if Lugia is like really, really broken and like literally the format becomes play Lugia or play something to hard counter Lugia. But I think those formats are generally pretty unenjoyable. I'm fine with like a top 3 decks or something like that, or even the current more open meta that we have with the current Lost Origins meta. I enjoy that kind of stuff a little bit more. But like NAIC was a pretty unenjoyable format, I think, overall. It was literally Palkia and Teleon, Arceus, and Mew. And you could play, if you didn't play any of those 3 decks, you were just trolling, right? So um so hopefully, that, so I think we don't have to
Or
worry about,
Mewtwo V
like, I think,
Union, or Mewtwo V Union.
yeah,
If you're one of
or
the
Mewtwo
5 people
V.
playing Mewtwo V Union,
Yeah.
yeah.
So this might end up being pretty unenjoyable, but I think like the only time we should only be concerned, I think, once the EX stuff happens, once their um once their view of how they want the game to be, once the EXs kind of take over the format, once we either, maybe it's a rotation from now, maybe it's 2 rotations, maybe it's just like 4 set releases into the EX formats. If it's still bad and we feel like their vision of the game is coming to light, but it's still kind of the same old that we've been seeing the last couple of years, then I think there's cause for concern. But it does sound like they want to fundamentally change up the game quite a bit with the EX releases.
So Lugia, yeah, I mean, it seems very strong, and I think we'll see at LAIC, but everything I've seen so far from it does lead me. I mean, the main problem with the deck theoretically is going to be getting Archeops in the discard pile. That's like the one hurdle the deck
Yeah.
has to overcome. But that's not that hard, right? You
Yeah, I
just
don't think so. 4 Ultra
play
Ball,
the
4 Evolution Incense.
yeah, and 4 Archeops as well. Some
Yeah.
people, if you've seen someone post a list with 3 Archeops, they're trolling for sure, right? Like, the most important part of your deck to get your broken strategy to work is to get Archeops down. You got to play the 4 Archeops for sure, right?
Yeah, and you could run into that situation where you prize 2 of them. So I think you're always playing. You could maybe skimp on an Evolution Incense, but you're probably playing 4 Archeops 100% of the time. And I think it will be a ridiculously popular deck at LAIC. I think it's possible that it doesn't win, of course, and I think we will see some counter decks, and I think we will see the meta adjust a little bit more in the following tournaments of like Toronto and Dallas, where we see more people come up with counters and stuff. But I think it will be ridiculously popular at LAIC, rightfully so. And we will see some people try and come up with their counters and see what counters people can come up with. And I'm sure some of those will see pretty good success because there'll be a lot of Lugia in the room. But if the deck truly is that powerful, and it might just feel like Palkia all over again, where it's like, all right, your deck counters Lugia, but you're getting to like a 50% win rate against it or something like that, maybe 52. So it's still basically a 50-50.
Yeah, I guess the question also becomes kind of, where does Tina fit into this? The most popular deck from the current format. Does Tina do okay against Lugia? I mean, the fact Tina being able to, it can definitely build in a way to deal with Lugia, right? Like, you can add Choice Belt to the deck, so you're doing 310, you're hitting through the V
Yeah.
Guard energies. Tina's also a deck that can totally play Temple of Sinnoh if it wanted to as well.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility. And of course, just the threat of Star Requiem being able to take 2 prizes at any point. Usually the big benefit is going to be in the matchups where you're taking 3 prizes on a VMAX, right? Is where Star Requiem's really going to shine. When you're knocking out like a Kyurem or a Mew or something like that. But just taking the 2 is still good enough sometimes, right?
Yeah, you can still set up like the 2/2 prize trade. I think it's just going to be how fast and efficient is Lugia. Because if you're just like going like turn 2 boss KO your Giratina,
Yeah.
or Serena up the Giratina now, because that card is, I think, going to be the second biggest card from the set, which could have a ton of impact on how a bunch of decks are built as far as aggression goes. Because now, if half of your draw supporters are also gust effects, that opens up so many more opportunities to get like turn 2 boss plays and stuff. Well, now turn 2 Serena plays, I guess. And usually when you're looking for a turn 2 gust effect play, it's usually to chase down a V anyway, so it's not like you need boss, right? So I think even decks like Arceus could abuse that pretty heavily, where you go back to some Arceus builds with like heavier choice belt goon. Because now you're just going like you're so much more likely to have the Gust in the hand that now you can Starbirth for the other two pieces to get that Gust KO on the bench V Pokemon.
I actually think Serena might be the best card in the set. Like Lugia is obviously insanely powerful, but when we're talking about just longevity, I guess maybe
Yeah.
Serena actually won't have that much longevity
Oh yeah, because
because
we get
it does
EXs.
say, yeah, because we're getting EXs. But for the time being, Serena, I think, is just insane. The
Yeah,
fact that
yeah, I get
all of
that's
your
fair.
boss's orders turn into potential draw supporters, right? It's not obviously not quite the same as boss's orders because you can't bring up a basic Pokemon. But how often are you going boss a comfy for game? Like almost never, right?
Well, I
um,
don't know. Once you get that, it is actually I think a little bit more than people think because when you do get that first knockout on like a Sobble or
sure.
something,
And that's
so I
the
think
big
you'll
concern
still see
I've
a
seen
couple
people
boss.
talk about with it. And so it's like you still play a boss or a split, a 2-2 split, but like
Yeah,
just the potential for your gusting effect to also have a draw support option, even if it's not like the strongest draw support option. I mean, any Pokemon player can think over the last year of a time where they opened up with a hand that had no supporter in it except boss's orders, right? It has definitely
yep,
happened. So imagine if that boss's orders just had a little bit of a bailout option for you to at least get something going, right?
yeah. It'll make the game, and I think it's actually a bad thing. It'll make the game that much more consistent, which I think is actually already like not inherently always a bad thing in the game, but you want to create almost more RNG in the game
Yeah.
to an extent in some situations because then that increases the length of games, right?
I mean, and
If
that's
you
what makes
list
card games unique. That's what separates us from something like chess, right? I think like a great example of this is Palkia. Palkia is inconsistent in the early game, but if Palkia sets up, it is insane. You can, I mean, it's become a big meme at this point, but you can do literally anything. You have perfect access to your entire deck. So at that point, once Palkia sets up, it's a chess game of managing your resources, which that is really fun, and that's what like some of the top level players probably enjoy the most. Is just that chess game of getting the exact pieces in the right order, managing your resources perfectly, and there's a ton of skill in that without a doubt. But I think the thing that separates card games from something like chess is the fact that there is that little bit of an RNG element that even if you play to your outs, like sometimes someone who's a lesser player than you is going to be able to beat you. And that's like something that's exciting for the people who are the lesser players, right? Because
yeah.
that's what gives them like, because if Pokemon was a game of pure skill, there would be way less people at these tournaments, right?
Yeah.
Because like they wouldn't feel like they had a chance.
Yeah, I
But
think if that's truly what you're looking for, then you should go play chess, right? So
yes,
we
yeah,
do want a level of RNG in the game, and you want it, and sometimes it creates, depending on the meta, it'll create a space for the better player to win more often when there's more RNG in the game because it makes games longer, and gives more opportunity for people to mess up, and it's not just oh, you went first. And because the games last 3 turns, there's less chance for you to mess up, and the game is so much more linear now that you're not going to mess up, and now you're just going to beat me in 3 turns because you knocked out 3 of my 2 prize Pokemon, right?
yeah.
So always hoping for a little bit of RNG, and that's what like I feel like Serena takes away a little bit of that RNG, and I already feel like the game has been lacking in the RNG department. Part of that I think is the Inteleon engine, of course. But yeah, I think the game has been lacking a little bit overall in the RNG department, and maybe that's because it feels like that because like half the decks, like you look at the Lost Zone decks right now, and they literally like try and mill themselves aggressively to play around like Marnie and Roxanne in the late game and like go down to like as few cards as possible, and then you have the Inteleon decks where they just get whatever they want anyways. Um, then you have like the good old fashioned Arc B barrels are like the remaining or like the Reggies where it's
Those are
like
the
play my
real
draw
Pokemon
supporter.
decks, right?
Yeah, those are the real Pokemon decks. Play my draw supporter. Let's get some cards. What do we got? Maybe a little bit of a draw engine like a B barrel in play or something.
Yeah.
Really playing Pokemon. Um, so yeah, hopefully it doesn't like I feel like that could be like maybe like not maybe not a truly warranted fear of Serena, but it is something that like is to think about. It's like maybe it makes the game a little bit too consistent at that point.
And we'll talk about some of the other potential decks to come out of this new set next week. Maybe we'll look at all the V stars or something like that and at least give our thoughts on them. You know, we talked about Reggie Drago a couple weeks ago. You know, Vulpix is kind of interesting. Not the best, but one other card I do want to talk about just a little bit, which kind of on a similar level to Serena, I think is an absolutely insane card, especially considering the meta, is Forest Seal Stone, the new tool card the tablet, as most people I think have started to call it. It's a tool card that gives a Pokemon V a V-Star power, and the V-Star power it gains is Star Alchemy. During your turn, you may search your deck for any one card and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So it's half of a Star Birth for any basic Pokemon V, and I think the obvious place for this card to go is in Mew V Max decks, because you can just slap it on Genesect and get any card, any combo piece you need.
Yeah, yeah, definitely gonna be a big impact, especially for Mew specifically because it gets around Path to the Peak. Like Path
Yes.
doesn't stop it, so it is an ability, but it's an ability on a tool card, not the actual Pokemon. So the ruling on it, and I could
It's
see it being
so
ruled either
weird,
way.
yeah.
Yeah, I actually would have liked it to be ruled that Path shuts it off, but personally, but the ruling is because it's an ability on a tool card that is then attached to the Pokemon. Path to the Peak does not shut off the ability.
Yes,
So
so the wording is really important here. Path to the
yeah,
Peak says Pokemon with a rule box have no abilities. And the tool card says the Pokemon V this card is attached to can use this V Star power. It does not say that this Pokemon gains this ability, that it has this ability. It says it can use this ability. So that is where the big difference is and why the ruling works out the way it does.
yeah. So Path doesn't shut it off. So if you're Mew, if you just get that in play before you get Roxanne Path, you just have a free get out of jail free card right there and just go get a stadium or a
Yep.
vacuum or whatever, bump the path, or go get just like a boss for game or something, and you just win. And also it's just like a powerful card. Like if you open your opening hand and it's dead except for the forest, you just use that to go get a VIP pass and then you're cruising, right? And I think a lot of other decks will try and take it. Literally any deck that just doesn't have a V-Star power will
Yeah,
play
there's
this
not
probably for the most part.
much else in the meta right now. Something like Eternatus, I guess, right? We talked about
Yeah.
Eternatus a little bit. Vikavolt, which we talked about, that's a deck that could theoretically
Yep.
use it. Everything else is pretty much going to have a V-Star power. It's like an Arceus deck or a Palkia deck, but it also does open up other possibilities, maybe. But yeah, I mean, just an incredibly powerful card. I do also, I guess, while we're talking about this, we can talk about there is another similar tool card, um,
Yep.
which is the Earthen Seal Stone, which also grants a Pokemon V a V Star power, and that V Star power is Star Gravity for 3 colorless. It's an attack. Put damage counters on all of your opponent's Pokemon V until they each have 100 HP remaining. So we've seen this type of attack be really good in the past. It usually is do 100 damage to everything, but this just puts everything down to 100 remaining, which is pretty interesting. Azul, do you have any thoughts on this card? I mean, I think obviously the other tablet is better, but we haven't had a great like spread deck or even a decent spread deck, I feel like, for a little while. I guess besides Urshifu, if you want to count that.
Yeah, so one of the problems with this obviously is like if your opponent just doesn't evolve their Pokemon and then they evolve afterwards, they still have quite a bit of HP. They don't just have 100 left, they'll have like 200 left, or like 180 or whatever, depending on the Pokemon. So they'll have a little bit more HP. But there's cool combos you can do with this. You can combo this with Drapion or Zapdos, and their abilities actually apply to the attack on the tablet.
Yeah, and
Which
this
seems
is actually very conflicting because
yeah.
based on what we just said about Tablet and Path to the Peak, this attack should not work with something like Drapion V or Zapdos. But I think it has to be like an English translation issue because it has been ruled in Japan that it does work. But
Yeah, which I think is cool. I think that's actually a cool interaction there.
sure.
So Drapion and Zapdos both say for each of your opponent's Pokemon. Well, Drapion says for each of your Single Strike, Rapid Strike, or Fusion Strike Pokemon in play, its attacks cost 1 colorless less. And Zapdos is for each of your opponent's V Pokemon in play, its attacks cost 1 colorless left. So the tablet costs triple colorless. So if they have 3 V Pokemon in play and you slap that on your Zapdos, it can use the attack for free because of its ability. So you can put all your opponent's Pokemon down to 100 HP remaining. Then you have a V Pokemon in your active, and if they didn't evolve, then they evolve. They get 2 prize cards off that V Pokemon. So how good is that actually going to be? I don't know. But it's a cool combo at the very least, and I think the card outside of something like that could be good as well. I don't know what deck you'd play it in, but I think it has potential. Definitely not as going to be as heavily played as the Forest tablet, but I don't think that one's going to be like very high impact either. Because yeah, a lot of the best decks have very good V-Star powers to begin with.
Yes. So those are just kind of some of our early thoughts on the Silver Tempest meta, Lugia seems insanely strong, but we'll go more
Yeah.
in depth next week and talk a little bit more about it. And I think with all that being said, Azul, any other closing thoughts? Anything else you want to say about Lugia before we wrap up the episode?
No, I think that's it. Let's wrap it up, Chip. Send us away.
Yes, thanks to everyone so much for listening. If you enjoyed, as always, please be sure to leave us a rating, a review, all of those things. It is the quickest and easiest way to support us. It's free, it takes just a second, so we really would appreciate it. And we're so thankful to everyone who has already, of course, done that. You can check us out on social media. Of course, you can follow us. Subscribe to the podcast over on YouTube. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter at uncommon_energy. And you can also follow myself and Azul, myself being at Trainer Chip and Azul at Azul_GG. That's definitely the best place to stay in touch with us. Definitely our most active social media platform for sure. So
Yep.
yeah, interact with us over there. Give us a follow, and we'll keep you up to date with our happenings and our doings in the world of Pokemon.
Yeah. Thanks for the support as always. Catch you all next week, Tuesdays at 7 a.m. Eastern. Peace.